Hey, happy Tuesday, everybody. I hope that you're having a good week so far, enjoying this cool weather that is coming in our way. Hey, we just wanted to take a moment and just kind of share a good word for your Tuesday. If you're following along, obviously, I hope that you're following on with the Grace to Glory reading plan that we've been going through. So today will be day 15 that you should be reading in this. And so, anyway, this past Sunday we talked about we were hanging out in First Peter and how Peter was talking about this great salvation and encouraging us about this great salvation, to see how blessed we are, and to remember how blessed we are to know this great salvation that wasn't just a one time in history. It wasn't just with the incarnation. It wasn't just at the moment that Christ died and that he raised again, but it's this great salvation that has been the plan since before time began, before creation, and before in eternity past. We used our theme verse is Titus chapter 2, verse 11 says, "For the grace of God has appeared, bringing salvation for all people, training us to renounce ungodliness and worldly passions, and to live self-controlled, upright, and godly lives in the present age." And we're waiting for our blessed hope, the appearing of the glory of our great God and Savior Jesus Christ. And so we talk about how when grace appeared and this glory that's going to be appeared, it means that when the word that Paul uses for appeared there means to be manifested in a way that had previously not been seen. And so the idea that God's grace and God's glory appearing isn't a new concept in the sense that we've never seen God's grace and we've never seen God's glory. But when Christ first came in the incarnation, his grace was seen in a way that had never been seen before. When his glory will be revealed one day in the future, it'll be a glory like we've never ever seen before, and we're excited about that. And so this great salvation that we talked about, and this hope that we have in this great salvation of Christ's return, I want to kind of continue that thought of how it's always been the plan. Yesterday's reading came out of Genesis 3 and Galatians 4. And we read that in the fullness of time, when the fullness of that time had come, that God sent forth his Son, born of a woman. And the reason why he was born is to redeem those who were under the law, that we might receive adoption as sons. And because you were sons, God sent the Spirit of His Son into our hearts, crying, "Abba, Father." So you are no longer a slave, but a son, and if a son, then an heir through God. One of the points that I made Sunday was that Christ had predicted this great salvation when the Spirit of Christ, as Peter says, would lead prophets to prophesy about this salvation. And we made the point that it wasn't just a moment in history that you've been loved. It wasn't just at one time when Christ died, but that you and I, that we've been loved for endless ages in eternity past. And let me show you what I mean by that. In Genesis 3, which is also the reading from yesterday, this is shortly after the fall, and this is when God is saying his curses or whatever. And first he speaks to the serpent, and he tells this to the serpent, that I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring, from her seed. And it says, he shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel. That right there in the beginning, God says there will be one that will be born of the seed of woman. See, here's the deal. This is showing you a picture that the salvation it's always been this great. It's always been this story. That even in the beginning in the garden, God already had the plan that one day there would be one that was born of woman, which is what Paul writes in Galatians 4. When the fullness of time had come, the Son of God sent his Son, born of woman. Man, what a great salvation. I want you to see that you have always been loved. And because of his first coming and the promise of his second coming, this is what you understand too. Not only have you always been loved, but you always will be loved by God. Because what does Paul write back in Galatians 4? And it says, because you are sons, God has sent the Spirit of His Son into our hearts, crying, Abba, Father. And you are no longer a slave, but a son. And if a son, then an heir through God. We understand when the glory appears like we've never seen it before, that we will experience what it means to truly be an heir with God and forever be in fellowship with Him. So hey, no matter how you're feeling this morning or this afternoon or whenever you're hearing my voice and seeing this video, remember, you've been loved for eternity past and you'll be loved for eternity future. And I hope that encourages you today. Be blessed.